Good evening, everyone. Now I request our chairman, Mr. Mukundan, to take over. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this third session of this day on Building Warehouse Competitiveness 2022. I heard that you had a very interactive and useful session, past two sessions. And I can assure you on behalf of the panelists of this session that we will try and deliver the best value to you as before. First of all, really appreciate all of the participants' interest in terms of the topic. It is an emerging topic. Ever since I started my career way back in 1990, this whole concept of warehouse has undergone tremendous transformation, both in the physical form and in the virtual form. So I'm very, very happy about the participants' interest in terms of knowing more about what is it in store for the future. Equal thanks to panelists before I thank CII. I think a lot of us do good work between whatever time we are assigned to within the four walls of our facility. But to take time off and then share that experience to a wider set of audience is a very, very noble cause. So I truly salute all of the panelists who have taken their time to be part of this wonderful session. As a chair of this session, for me, the job is much easier today. We have 6 experts who have done commendable job in their own roles as part of their organization. We have such a diversity in the panelists that 2 of them are from the service providers, a manufacturing automotive company, a company that manufactures office automation items. So, and a very big manufacturer of soft drinks. So we can't expect a better diversity in talking about this topic, because warehousing is something which is common, that serves multitude of industries, that touches the lives of every one of us, in my view, as we transact any of the transactions in our lives today. So without much ado, I sincerely thank all of the people, including CII, for giving us the opportunity to be present today. Now, dwelling few minutes on what is it that is in store as far as the topic is concerned, I picked up a few words from the program agenda. Obviously, warehousing competitiveness or building warehouse competitiveness is the theme. And under the theme, there are 3 sub-points that have been built in. India has been transitioning from a very, very traditional go-down come stockyard kind of warehouse to the most modern warehouses today. I'm amazed to see a few of them, including the storage locations in places like airports, seaports, and all that. So there are 3 subtopics that have been embedded into it. One is, of course, all of them towards warehouse effectiveness or warehouse competency increasing. First subtopic is the role of information technology. The second subtopic is the role of automation. The third subtopic is sustainability in warehouse modernization. Now, going back to the role of IT, I think today we breathe IT in every single minute. Be it the event that we have today, it is also IT enabled. Be it the kind of goods that are touched by many of the companies, being as a consumer getting receiving goods or shopping, IT plays a very, very integral role in everyday's life. So IT will continue to play a very key role as we progress in the warehouse competitiveness increasing. Second, of course, topic is the role of automation. Now, there is always a debate between how much to automate, what not to automate, why not manual, why only automation, all of that. I think experts in this panel have a good insight in terms of what automation has worked for them, what automation they have tried their hands on, and what is in store as far as automation of warehouses is concerned. The third subtopic that I talked about was sustainability. Today, no supply chain conference is complete without talking about green or sustainability. I think sustainability has been thrust on us because we have misused the world so much, the resources so much, that if we don't do anything, I think we will not leave a better world to our next generation. So sustainability in anything that we do is becoming the core concept. So with no further delay, I would now start the session. The format that we will follow is that we have, as I said, 6 experts. So the more we hear from them, the more good it will be for our intellectual strength. So what we thought we will do was, I will call upon each of these experts. They will do a 2 minutes brief intro of themselves. And once the first 10 minutes of intro session is over, each of our panelists will speak for about 5 minutes on their perspective of warehouse competitiveness in terms of touching upon whether it is IT or automation or sustainability. Now, once we get through that session, we will shoot 1 or 2 questions that will appeal to the audience. And then we will open the floor for questions. We have 90 minutes, of which I think 5 minutes has already been consumed. So I would now request Mr. Vikram to go ahead and introduce himself very briefly to the audience.
Hi, good afternoon all, and it's really an honor to be here, part of this esteemed audience. Thank you, Mr. Mukundan, for giving me the first chance to go. This is Vikram Mansukhani. I work with TVS Supply Chain Solutions as the Chief Engineering and Technology Officer. My portfolio really comprises of looking after procurement for the organization, bringing technology to bear into the operating arena on the shop floor, and obviously doing a whole bit of continuous improvement through automation. I think one of the earliest exposures that I had in this organization was, we had just taken over a warehousing operation for a large FMCD factory on the outskirts of Pune. And we were really plagued with getting resources at that site. We had deployed almost 300 staff, were not able to get the throughput going. And besides that, had a huge union issue there. And we really, ratcheted our brains to think of what we could do to get rid of this issue. And all it took was really deploying 6 clamp trucks or clamp-based forklifts. The production went through the ceiling. We were able to turn around the trucks coming in through the factory. The factory line stoppage was 0. So I think very, very relevant experiences and examples of what automation can do in the supply chain arena. And I'm sure as a group, we will talk you more through it as we go along. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Vikram. Can I request Sanjay to introduce himself?
Yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sanjay Khare. I presently handle the function of sustainability for Skoda Auto Volkswagen India. It's a car manufacturer, and we are a European one, and what's largest one, we have brands like Skoda, Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini in our umbrella, and we are one of the leading manufacturers all over the world. Globally, we are producing more than 1 crore vehicles a year, and we are in a big way moving towards electrification. And I have personally got almost 35 years of experience in the automotive industry with OEMs, right now with Volkswagen, Skoda, and earlier I was with Maruti Suzuki for 28 long years. I'm a graduate from IIT Kanpur. And in my entire experience around manufacturing, automation, digitization, and now sustainability, I think all these areas will be touched up during my talk around warehousing and I'll talk. Thank you.
Super. Ms. Richa, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mukundan, for this opportunity. Before I thank the CII Institute, I would like to introduce myself. Myself, Richa Gautam. I head the sustainability and CSR function at Mahindra Logistics. And precisely in my role, I'm pretty new to this domain, but sustainability is the thread that has been a connecting point with my prior experiences and also the current portfolio that I'm handling. I have done my doctorate in sustainability management from NITI Mumbai, and that's how the supply chain connect has always been there. And for the major uptake, Mahindra Logistics is the integrated third-party logistics company in India, working with more than 350 clients, serving many thousands of PIN codes, and having around 18 million square feet of space under warehousing. So that's the kind of footprint that we operate on a pan-India network. and looking forward to contribute here. And thank you, CII, for giving this opportunity to have a discussion on this platform and understand the sustainability, automation, and IT aspects. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate. Over to you, Yogesh.
Hey, greetings to all. Thank you, Mr. Mukundan and CII for this opportunity. I'm Yogesh Sareen, little over 3 decades of experience, past 13 years with Dell Technologies, $100 billion plus a US organization. And my scope essentially is close to what we are talking today, which is warehousing. I manage some 50 service parts or little over 50 service parts logistic warehouses across Asia Pacific. And hence this is of utmost curiosity for me to learn from the esteemed panelists here and contribute my 2 cents too. On view of automations, while we are all evolving, but then we need to just coordinate our people, our processes, our 3PL partners, and even the available technologies that we have towards improvising in any way we can our supply chain performance for a larger goal. And that's what our core objective is. On sustainability, we'll talk more about it, but in short, if I may say, we are here because there is a need for an integration of environmental and social causes, and they cannot be separated from the hardcore supply chain, which touches us almost every day. So thanks for having me here. And I'm a mechanical engineer and a Six Sigma black belt, and also head the sustainability and the progress made real, or the community service for global organization of mine. Thank you.
Welcome, Yogesh. Really appreciate. Superb. Over to you, Shubhra. Shubhra, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Mukundan and the panel. It's an honor to be here. It's thank you very much to CII Institute of Logistics for bringing this wonderful learn panel together and having me invite me to share my thoughts and our perspective. To introduce myself quickly, I am Shubhra Jain. I am part of the public policy team at Amazon. And for Amazon, you would be logistics and warehousing, or as we call them, fulfillment centers, are an integral component of our operational backbone, which really allows us to do what we exist for as an organization, which is to delight our customers. There is one of our most recent, we are guided by something called these leadership principles. And our most recent one talks about success and scale brings broad responsibility. And from there is a lot of stress laid on moving each cog in the larger operations wheel that we have towards more sustainable, more green operations, which really goes ultimately to fulfill the larger objective, the pledge that we have laid out for ourselves, which is, ultimately by 2040 to be net zero, but then a very clear, lighthouse also for 2030. And that's what we are working towards. And so, when talking about warehousing and sustainability in warehousing, I'd like to, I'll touch upon some of the experience that we have in making that transition. So in deploying renewable energy, for example, or, looking at better building design and materials that go into it. So across the entire, design, construction and operation phases for warehousing, how can these, be more sustainable built structures? And I think it's an important area given the growth that we will foresee, we foresee in this sector, and very timely given the national logistics policy and the emphasis that is laid also on sustainable and resilient warehousing. So very, excited to be here and look forward to the learnings and the discussion today. Thank you, Mr. Mukundan.
Superb. Thank you, Shubhra, for being part of this panel. Is Mr. Umesh there, or is yet to join? Okay. So I think we will go back to the same sequence. So what I'm going to request each of the panelists is to give their perspective of how they see this whole area of warehouse competitiveness, moving from wherever it is today, not only in their environment, but the way they see the Indian environment. What are the things that their company is doing, or what are the things that they have come across as best practices, with some examples? And how do we move some of the warehouses that are probably still in the very primitive stage to the next level? Or how do we really become a world class or best across class warehouses that we can demonstrate to the world from India? So can I request Vikram to share his perspective on this?
Sure, thank you again. So if you look at a McKinsey research study, what it really says is 94% of organizations worldwide choose automation or truly believe that automation is the way to go. 38% out of that have really taken first steps in the direction of automation, but only about 20% have been able to implement it. And obviously there are reasons why they haven't been able to take it to the shop floor. If we bring that story back home to India, the same research says that India is growing in terms of automation, especially in the supply chain area, at a rate of only 3 to 5%, whereas other industries are growing anything between 8 to 12. So surely there is headroom to be covered. Surely there is a lot of opportunity that is out there to go out and automate. But I think both for the consumers, which is users of supply chain, and for 3PLs like us, what becomes very, very important is to decide and understand on why we want to automate, how, both in terms of the operating plan, the costs that will be outlaid to deploy that automation, and also the when. The when is very, very critical and relevant. So TVS supply chain spans across almost 38 countries globally. And we run a warehousing space of almost 25 million square feet. About 18 million out of that is in India. So for us, how much of automation we want to do, where exactly it's going to benefit us is a very, very relevant topic for us within the organization. And while some of the pros are extremely well known in terms of throughput enhancement, error reduction, cost of overall delivery going down, the safety that it brings because of standardization and not allowing too much manual touch, and most importantly, being very, very predictable. It is not dependent on whether your staff turned up on that day. No, it absolutely throws that out of the window. There are a huge number of, call it, cons or downsides as well, which basically come from the fact that if the operation is extremely customized, if it is a non-standard operation, you would not go ahead and deploy automation. If you don't have a standard offering in terms of a service, or a standard service offering is not being sold to a customer, and the period of the contract itself is under doubt, again, automation is not something that you'd choose. You would go in for a manual or kind of semi-mechanized kind of operation. The maturity of the market itself determines whether automation is going to be deployed large scale, small scale, medium term, long term. Automation does not allow one to quickly adapt to changes, either in the demographic consumption or in the distribution patterns that our customers might have. So unless there is a very, very collaborative deployment of automation where we are able to do a very, very strong SNOP with our customers in terms of demand forecasting, consumption forecasting in the marketplace, you cannot go out and deploy automation to a very large extent. So having said that, while we all believe and completely agree that automation is the way for the future, I think we've got to get into a very judicious use of mechanization or using simple machines in the warehouse space, a full-blown automation, and of course, a large part of that, especially in the Indian context, being very, very manually driven, especially given that the cost of labor or workforce in India is still extremely low compared to the Western world as we have it. So as an organization, keeping that judicious use in mind, what we've really done is, for example, in the US, a lot of our warehouses have complete robotics embedded into them, where we deploy robots to do very precision tasks. We get an extremely large amount of throughput going through those locations. We use the Google Eye technology or visual augmentation for doing the tasks within the warehouses. In UK, it's more of automated storage and retrieval systems, more of conveyors and sorters that we use. In India, we are being extremely selective, again, for the reasons that I mentioned. We have deployed automation in terms of PTL, PTV, go-to-person technologies. But again, depending on the complexity of the operation, the scale, we make a very judicious choice of it. We do use drones in some of our warehouses, large warehouses, for doing inventory management. And we are currently doing proof of concept with certain AGVs within the warehouse for pulling tugs, moving pallets around. So again, I think we're trying to strike a balance between cost, throughput, safety, and standardization of operation, deploy automation in a fairly, I would say, balanced manner. So that's what we're doing at TVS Supply Chain. Mr. Mukundan.
Oh, thank you, Vikram. Really appreciate. I think you brought it in a very nutshell in terms of what are the pros and cons of automating and how your organization has approached it from a global as well as from an Indian context. So really appreciate. So can we now move over to Sanjay Kare to share experience on this topic?
Thank you, Mr. Vikram. I think you have given a wonderful overall outlay, and I think you've told very rightly globally how our Indian demographies are. So it's a very, very important thing to see the Indian demographies, Indian demographic dividend we have in form of the low cost of labor. And so, yes, you are very rightly tuned to the right way, and I think that's where our challenges also lie. So, but if you see globally, whatever opportunity lies in front of India today, more than 17-18% of our GDP comes from agriculture and food. I think it was being discussed in our group only, the entire food chain for the FIFA World Cup, which is happening right now, is coming from the Indian eggs and meats and all which are going over there. So logistics plays a very, very important part, and particularly agri-produce, because agriculture doesn't require so much of capital investment. So it depends totally upon local conditions, situations. So a lot of GDP in India happens around the food chain, around food processes. And the entire processes of cold chain and food logistics is a very, very important part for building India's competitiveness as well as satisfying the India's own requirements. And what I see today's date, as compared to what it was 2 years back before COVID and now, I never need to go to market now. I press a button on my computer, on my mobile, and in the morning my wife gets all the rice or even the vegetables and milk, everything delivered to the doorstep by the big basket. One thing very really important has happened is that one was about the demography of India. Second part was about the digitalization, which has become totally democratic. Everybody has got access to cheap internet, easily available. It's there in everybody's hand. India has got highest number of payments which are based upon internet payments. So this digitalization has driven things into a much, much higher level. Second thing is we can see a lot of deglobalization happening. People working on China plus one policy, or say directly coming to India, or say developing, this part of the world, say Vietnam and all. A lot of things are going to come. So it's going to be, I'll say, a decade of India now. And the 25 years, 10 years to 25 years, India is going to be developing. It is not to be unstoppable story. But now around this time, I use the two more words that around deglobalization and demographic dividend. What exactly India is getting big advantage of is the services sector right now. And that's where logistics and supply chain are going to play a major role. So let me come straight away to the topic of warehousing and the supply chain part. I belong to automotive industry, which is supposed to be one of the biggest polluters in terms of global decarbonization part goes. We contribute almost 18% of the global footprint of carbon dioxide, not from today, from ever. Another two parts are 30% comes from energy, how the energy is produced. 30% comes from how various things like steel or aluminum, these things are getting produced. And then parts comes from the building part, and farming sector also contributes to 17-80% of the emissions, which is one big global problem today about the emissions in the atmosphere, and that's what everybody is trying to align to, so that this world can limit to 1.5 degree or 2 degrees centigrade of global warming as compared to pre-industrial levels or 1850 levels. So this decarbonization has to be embedded into each and everyone's thoughts. Number one thought is decarbonization and circular economy. How do we embed into our operations to take care of the global warming issues? Because if we do not do it, our regulations will push us to do into it. But if we take advantage of it proactively, we may get to build some more resilience and get to build some more monetary efficiencies into the process. The number one process is about the decarbonization and circular economy. So for example, do we have standardizations? Like in my company, we have got a concept called Zero Impact Factory, which has got 11 pillars. Now, number one pillar is how do we use energy? For all my scope 1, scope 2 energy has to be renewable by 2025 or 2030. That's what we have built up. So like now my existing manufacturing plants already has got 18.5 megawatts of solar power. Now this solar power caters to 30% of my energy needs. And biggest advantage is that this solar power is 60% cheaper than my normal power. If I buy a normal power for 8 rupees, this power I get for 3 rupees 60 paise. So second area to work upon in any industrial setup or a place is how do you manage water? Because water is always required for some processing or some usage, domestic usage. So water becomes a big challenge. So how do we manage water? How do we reduce the water consumption? How do we recycle water, use the treated wastewater? For example, my plants are absolutely zero liquid discharge plants. Not even a single drop goes out. We treat even the last drop of water and use it for our own internal gardening purposes. We have a zero waste plant also. So more than 99.4% of our waste are totally recycled. I'm talking about a huge automotive plant manufacturing 1.5 lakh cars, huge paint shops, but we are able to repurpose each and every waste. Plastics or cardboards, they are one part, but even paint shop waste, we are able to repurpose them into sludge. Whatever sludge goes into primer for putting on structures. So it's just a matter of some inventive thinking, and everything is possible to become zero waste. And mind you, it saves me a lot of money also. What I was earlier giving 25,000 rupees a ton for disposal of my waste, I'm able to save that in terms of crores of rupees. Same thing, I'm saving money in my energy. So that's how I driven the sustainability agenda. There are 11 more, out of the 11 about architecture and perception. So you can see my place where I'm sitting is very naturally lighted also. The buildings are designed for natural lighting, ventilation. So you don't unnecessarily spend energy. Even soil is taken care about. Digitalization, automation certainly is a part of it. So other than this, second part that comes from here is about digitalization. Why digitalization is very, very important. So as long as things are remain human, I remember it was maybe 20, 25 years back, the time I started my initial careers. That time we had set up a huge vertical carousel type of storage system in our plant. We used to call it stacker cranes. And stacker crane, the person had to go up and get the material and store it in huge shelves, a lot of pigeonholes, maybe thousands of them were there. And very good mechanical system was brought in. Now, what was lacking was that there was no system to manage the data out of that. It was pure mechanical system. I was talking of 1990. And what my persons who were the drivers who were running that vertical stacker crane system say, no, this machine is bad. They'll always say the motor is bad, this conveyor is bad, it's not work. And you know how I got the solution done? I was a young engineer of a maintenance department at that time. I simply worked on a digital solution. I first time started learning Microsoft Lotus 123 and tried to give them some very basic menu-driven system. How do they manage the data, whatever they are keeping at a place, robots or something based upon a first in first out systems, and how they can retrieve it. Very simply, the entire problem of the machine was gone. So data management is a very, very important aid to be given to any human beings. Nothing should be manual. All the data management has to be automated. I think rightly so, all by Amazon's and TVS and everybody sitting over here. I did not speak this thing over here. Well, that's a given thing, and given the India's advantage on this digitalization front, the type of power we have at our low cost, we can do a lot of automations. We must do it. We must use the best of the IT systems to manage the data. And also, it helps to the automation part that Vikram just now talked about is extremely important. We have just gone through the COVID times, and during COVID times, literally we had to run the operations and we didn't have the people. We have to literally get people from outside to who were maybe selling some eatables on the roads to come inside and work during the warehouses. And there were a big challenge. I mean, even today's date, that challenge of manpower remains. So of course, India's manpower is certainly much cost effective as compared to what Europe or Japan and our other counterparts abroad is. But the question comes of the reliability also. The time you have to deliver customer satisfaction, you have to do it on time. You have to do it to the right quality. So everything you cannot depend upon manual labor, which can do unrest and which can do into various type of, other type of problems they have issues. So sometimes whatever can be mechanized, we have to do it. So we have got in our system, we have got even robots and cobots also. On a station, a cobot as well as human being can work together. I'm talking of my engine assembly plant, but same can be extended to my warehouses also. We've got huge warehouses also for our after sales products, for our incoming supply chain, for outgoing supply chain, a lot of warehouses we have. And so if I say about decarbonization part, all our equipments inside are 100% electric forklift, electric tow trucks. And that is what one important thing we take pride into, that there's not even a single amount of emissions inside the plant. We do take charging from the solar infrastructure that we have. So that also becomes a totally decarbonized system. Second thing is, which is now the third thing I'll talk about, is the de-risking part. De-risking has got two parts. One is health and safety, and second part is all about human rights. I'll take both the parts. So one big challenge we take is because of Indian systems being a hybrid of automation and manual works, a lot of accidents come around when the people are handling forklifts and such things. Forklift accidents are very common in India, and basically because of people not being so trained or so sometimes indisciplined also, we keep on getting those accidents. It's very important that entire movement of mechanized equipment should be totally delineated from the manual movement areas. Whatever the pedestrian walking areas and mechanical movement areas, it should be totally delineated. There should be a lot of automation devices to give the alarms the time of forklift is reversing. Do not allow anybody with mobiles to play inside the area. We recently had an accident 2 years back when a person was reversing and the person was staying with the mobile and they were crossed inside the wall. It all happens because of the foolish behaviors, and foolish behaviors have to be foolproofed. So we have to have a lot of measures on those topics. And last part I was talking about is the human rights. Human rights is something which is becoming a very big topic for particularly the global organizations, the European organizations. Things like Modern Slavery Act and all, which are applicable for the entire global supply chains. Like for my, if I talk my Volkswagen as a group, we've got more than 60,000 direct tier 1 suppliers and more than 1 million suppliers in the entire value chain. And I'm not talking about my group over here. Yes, yesterday I came over a de-risking part. A particular auditing team was asked to go and audit a factory in China from a European supplier. So they went inside, everything was good, spick and span, perfect. They had done all their self-assessments in a perfect way. There were nothing wrong. They came across a door which was painted, freshly painted, and it was mentioned, do not touch, it's freshly painted, you cannot go inside. One of the auditors got nosy for a little while and asked them to please open it. Once they opened it, they found there were some 150 kids inside, children with tapes on their mouth. Now, they simply said that, okay, fine, it was really, I mean, expected something like that to have happened in China. They stayed mum till they had left the shores of the country. But once they came back, they gave the reports and immediately that contract was cut off. So being in India, but we are working for global organizations, we have to be very cautious on the human rights, no child labor, no overtimes, proper equal wage for equal pay. And now one specific sector of home delivery is also started in a very big way. We have to ensure that a lot of human rights and equality things are taken care there also. So just to summarize whatever I've said, sort of what I started was about deglobalization and demographic dividend for India. And the macroeconomic factor is decade for India going to be. But the next 3 Ds, which are important for warehousing or the logistics operations, is decarbonization, digitalization, and de-risking around health and safety, around human rights. Thank you. You're muted, sir. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Oh, superb, Sanjay. I think you brought a very good perspective to this whole topic, and I'm sure the graphs, your sales graphs are going up. I am sure the customers are also recognizing the value very quickly in terms of some of the good actions that are being done within the company, and that is translating into higher market share, bigger volumes and all that. Thanks, Sanjay, again. Now over to Richa. Mahindra Logistics for her perspective on this topic.
Thank you, Mukundan. I am very happy to hear the experiences shared by Vikram and Mr. Khare. I think very insightful and gave a lot of thoughts when I was preparing something for myself. So knowing the context which is being set, I just want to take a big picture here and start with the micro trends, the macro trends, the global macro trends that we have observed over the years. And these are the ones which are going to shape the future supply chains. Right. So primarily, we have all heard about the global population shifts, how the population densities are skewed in nature, and that clearly defines why the demand is high on one end and not on the other end. So the global population is one of the reasons why this shape of future generations or future supply chains will be determined. Another is the flattening world. Flattening world, when I say it, is mostly the kind of the socioeconomic conditions of the middle class have improved. So is their buying capacities and all. So all of this, the mighty nature of or the kind of value that the rising middle class has made to the global supply chains is cannot also be challenged here. So these two kind of mega trends are coming from the supply, the demand side, where the demand is most focused. Whereas there are two more mega trends which are taking a lot of shape and shaping the further supply chains. Is one, climate change, which Sanjay also mentioned, and another one is the resource scarcity. Now these two macro trends are mostly speaking from the supply side of that, and major supply chain and logistics companies across the world needs to understand and calibrate their strategies and think very deeply on all of these aspects and make decisions to integrate them in their strategy itself, and so that the challenges or opportunities that all of them may have for the future will be very well taken care of. But very interestingly, what I have also observed, and this is what I gather from picking these points from the global atmosphere, there's one more very important factor which is coming into being, is the changing consumer preferences, and they are very dynamic. Thanks to the e-com and the retail sector, the consumers are spoilt with a lot of choices, and that gives them a little leeway to determine how they want the things delivered at their home and at what speed. So this is another macro trend which we are seeing, and very dynamic one, which is also changing the way we were operating so far. So coming to the sustainability aspect of it, which is also one of the points that we have discussed. Now coming to the India perspective, how we have seen the supply chains shaping up, how the warehousing patterns have shifted. So we have seen that the land cost over the 10 years timeline, and leave the pandemic period, which was a black swan event and has not contributed much to the growth agenda of the country. We have seen the land costs have really increased in the past years, maybe to the tune of 10 to 15%. The kind of the construction cost for each warehouse has also increased in a similar fashion. But when we talk about the rentals, that clearly has not increased in the pace it should have. And right now, when the customer preferences are changing, I'm hoping that if we add a certain value on the IT, on the automation, and on the sustainability parts in our offerings, that is going to command a premium price. So that's the kind of overview I thought I will set here. Now, coming to what Mahindra Logistics does, considering the overall landscape of where we are operating as a major supply chain company, warehousing, networking, we are also into express and e-commerce business, and catering to several hundred customers across the different fraternities. So what we have done, we have created a sustainability strategy for Mahindra Logistics, where we have taken aspirational targets around decarbonization. So we have a decarbonization target to become carbon neutral by 2040. And this, we take a lot of guidance from the M&M group in terms of having alignment in group targets and also contribute to the growth story of India. So one is decarbonization, second is circular economy, and third is logistics thought leadership. So these are the three critical thrust areas on sustainability where we work on. And the same is being deployed when we think of sustainable warehousing or sustainable infrastructures that we are creating. So decarbonization, as needless to say, I think Sanjay also mentioned the kind of footprint that India has, and the transport and logistics sector also contributes to around 13 or 14% of the global global GHG emissions. And it is therefore our responsibility to do something which also helps us serve our purpose and also deliver a value-added service to the customer, where customer sees if we are reducing a certain amount of carbon for any of our operations, be it a warehousing or be it a last mile delivery. This is also helping us and also in turn helping the customer that in their growth story on sustainability. So on the green warehousing stuff, Mahindra Logistics has a build-to-suit facility. We have a model called build-to-suit BTS warehouses, which is using, which is like state-of-the-art warehouses where we have multi-client facility, and it supports customers for inbound to manufacturing, fulfillment operations. It supports e-commerce, consumer manufacturing, and various auto and outbound industries. And the sustainability aspects that we consider start from the very design stage. So design, operations, and further use. These are the three aspects that we consider when we design a sustainable warehouse. So whereas we consider inclusion of recycled input material for the entire making of the warehouse, and we also try to, the safety is the most important part. So safety, design for environment, and energy efficiency, green cover, zero liquid discharge, renewable energy empanelment is also very important. So waste management, water management, everything is state-of-the-art automations, and this is all getting captured. If the customer wants at any point of time wants to see how does the dashboard on environment looks like, we do have an automated dashboard to say what is the kind of lux of intensity of light which is coming into the premise, what's the kind of ambient air quality, or what's the kind of safety parameters which are being tracked at any point of instance. So that's the kind of sustainability plus automation is what we have incorporated in our build-to-suit warehouses. So there's an ambitious plan around that, and as I said, we have a footprint of around 18 million square feet of warehousing space, out of which around 12 lakh square feet is the green build-to-suit warehouses. And this is all enabled with various world-class facilities for a very minimum kind of environment footprint on the environment, where we serve our customers with this particular solution, low carbon solutions. So it's the transition that we see globally, but the transition we also have to enable for us and for the customers is the message I want to communicate here. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Richa. Really appreciate. I think you have made it so simple. You're still able to catch some sleep amidst all these challenges of 2030 and all that. We are at the midway point of our panelist discussion. 3 of them have done their part, and we have 3 more to go. I just want to share my personal perspective on this just for a minute. Some years ago, when I attended a supply chain conference in San Francisco, when I was living there, a lot of these were talked about as concepts. And I was lingering as to, it was nice to hear about it from biggies at that time. But then I was also thinking that where are we standing with respect to India in all these? At that time, the landscape was very different. The thinking was very different. Cost consciousness was very high and all that. But then amazingly, I find that in the last 15 to 20 years, we have jumped technologies. We have leapfrogged on few areas. And I think, for example, the UPI technology, Unified Payment Interface, I think we have leapfrogged many countries. So same way, I think in warehousing, I'm very, very happy. Personally, I'm not making it up. I'm really happy that some of the discussions that only happened outside of India a few years ago have started happening a few years ago in India, and good examples of some of these green warehouses that Dr. Richa was talking about, some of the robotics that Vikram was talking about, some of the Skoda examples so far we have heard, are all happening right amongst us. So that's a great grace that we all have to be proud of. Okay, moving on. Having heard two service providers, one automotive manufacturer, let's turn our attention to Mr. Yogesh for his sharing of perspective. He comes from a office automation, personal computing space. So over to you, Yogesh, for your perspective on this topic.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mukundan. When you're talking about UPI, I just remembered a small personal incident of mine, which I'd like to share with your permission.
Sure.
This was a few years back and not so far away here in Singapore. And along with some of my fellow team members, we had a dinner. And post dinner, I had to be sent to my hotel. And one of a member of my team, I wasn't getting a taxi so easily available there. And she used an app and got a cab for me. And in next few minutes, Singapore is small, and I reached this place. When I was about to get down, I wanted to pay, and the guy said it's already been paid because somebody who booked it, it's from somebody's account. And I was like really heavy because next day afternoon I had to fly out, and I didn't want to carry that burden, few Sing dollars, but why should my subordinate be paying for me? And I was looking for ways, went to the cashier, converted some monies, and then made sure I contacted somebody, a friend of mine, came to the hotel. Hey, can you do me a favor and send this money across to this person at this address? And he said, yeah, I can do it right away if you are okay. And he used the same UPI, which we now know. And he used that number, and to that phone number, in the next few seconds, it was done. And I was like, eyes wide open. Wow, how could this be happening? And it's already happening, you're right. Now, we've got an interesting subject here on automation. There is some really good statistics that Vikram brought about, and yeah, we are still got a lot to cover there. But the good news is that a lot of organizations are taking automation as something which is part of their transformational strategy. And they cannot do without it, to Richa's point, that because the customer demands it, and customer demands it like yesterday. And the world is so flat that they know if something is happening somewhere, why not here? So yeah, there is obviously an ROI involved with it. One size may not fit all. Something which may work in a Dubai or a Singapore may not be workable here in terms of the investment and all. But I'll quickly share upon few automations that we do here, simple ones and few little more complex ones. Most of our warehouses are with robotic picking tools, automated guiding vehicles, collaborative robots like Sanjay talked about, where we've got this human element of being served with the robot doing the heavy lifting part of it. And then the vertical storage lifts and all. And then we also have certain slightly complex but hugely investment intensive ones, which are like the ASRS, or the automated storage and retrieval system. Usually we have it in places like Singapore. Drones for stock counting, we do that also. Internet of Things, that's been really well utilized, especially for avoiding accidents. There are ways by which you'll have gauges and you'll have heat maps on a supervisor who would know where what material handling equipment is being there, and anything, or even to the extent if some driver is in post-lunch in a drowsy mode, even those symptoms are being captured. So that's really good on a safety perspective. Another interesting thing, which may not be just limited to warehousing, but we practice a lot, is RPA, or robotic process automations. Now, it could be as simple as capturing an inventory report that goes on a real-time basis, or some KPIs that goes every day to n number of emails. But little more advanced version of what we have done is that, if there was a 5-6 step process of an order dropping a warehouse, the guy printing a pick list, going ahead, picking, and then, making the shipments. Now what happens is that as soon as an order drops, there is a program that runs, and he doesn't have to check inventory or anything. He just gets a prompt to where it has been picked. And most recently, as this week, we are trying to further maybe advance it by voice picking, which is being integrated with our warehouse management system. And what happens is that the picker wears a headset and a microphone and carries a mobile device, and he's running across in the warehouse. His hands are free, and he gets voice prompts just to make sure to direct him where in the warehouse or at which location he should go and what he should select. And an immediate benefit that we see out of the POC that we did it, that it significantly improves not just the speed, the efficiency, but the accuracy as well. And typically his hands are free, and in some way or other we avoid or totally avoid any paper pick list, aiding to Go Green also. Now talking about Grow Green, little bit on sustainability, which as I was saying is a must do today, as most organizations are picking up their net zero goals. We've got ours also on what day or year we'll be totally net zero, how much of our electricity will come from where, and 100% of our packaging will become recyclable or renewable. So all that is there. But talking specifically about warehousing, how sustainability is being used is more and more of our warehouse are now using natural lights. They are using solar panels. They are using thermal reflective roof coatings. Wherever possible, we are purchasing renewable energy from grids where they are available. And we've got, for each warehouses have several docks. So we are trying to use effective dock seals, which avoids any leakages to the aircon if there are one. And obviously each warehouse equipped with charging stations as we move to EVs. Inside warehouse also, we are trying to see that not just daylight, but the LEDs are such that they are checking the intensity of daylight and even occupancy sensing before they go on or off. Most warehouses are 24/7, but still they ensure that no light is just like that on. Waste segregations, lithium-ion batteries, electric material handling equipments, they're all there. Now, just attached with warehouse are two very important things that happens associated with warehouse. And these are one like packaging. I'll take a minute on this one because it's important that we are really focusing on a packaging which is minimal. We have a concept, something called part to box, like not having one box fitting all, but designed smaller boxes for smaller parts, just to make sure that no bigger boxes or more paper is wasted. Also trying to see that where even labels are avoidable and we try to move from a label to print on the box itself. Then trying to see that how we can further remove the box or do pre-stitched films and all can be used. And finally on processes, how we can be really having the segregation done properly and move ahead to little or no packaging, or wherever they are used should be renewable and reusable. Finally, on the transport piece of it, we see all over the world moving to e-vehicles, essentially important in our logistic world also because so much of everything is moving. In fact, we don't call it efficient if it isn't moving. But how about if we move it on an electric vehicle or on a biomethane, CNG, LNG kind of vehicle? So those are things which are highly not just in the books anymore, but deployed wherever possible. Thank you.
Great. Great, Yogesh. Thank you for that. Before I move to Shubhra, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Umesh from Coca-Cola has joined in. So we will, like in many of the political meetings, the final speech will be delivered by the VIP, the most important person. So we will hear from Umesh after we hear from Ms. Shubhra of Amazon. Over to you, Ms. Shubhra.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mukundan again, and welcome, Umesh. Look forward to your, your concluding our panel with your VIP remarks.
Sure.
The very relevant, very insightful remarks, and especially bringing in the macroeconomic context of what is driving warehousing sector today, and what are the changes, what are those changing dynamics which need to get factored in as we look to build it out. I will take maybe a slightly different approach and look at the slightly more micro level. I want to get into some of the specifics. And this I will bring from, it touches upon all the issues that, or at least some of the issues that my fellow panelists brought out related to the issue of decarbonization, building in sustainability into the design, into the operation of warehouses. But I want to really leverage the experience that we have at Amazon as as we move towards one of our near-term goals of powering all our operations by renewable energy by 2025, and we're on track to get there. But really, what are those learnings? What are those challenges that we have seen? And get into some of those specifics. So that's how I will want to structure my learnings, and really bring out three areas. I delve into three specific areas. The first one being the focus on using renewable energy and cleaner energy to power our warehouses. And again, we've had speakers talk about how this is an important strategy of, given the sustainability strategy that are being built out and design of warehouses. But really, what are those opportunities and what are those challenges that are there for warehouses today, for commercial, industrial, the sector overall, if we are to look at moving to a higher, a more aggressive adoption of renewable energy. So I think the opportunity there very clearly, we have so if I look at just solar, for example, we have the National Solar Mission, which was announced, and the original target was for 2022 to have 100 gigawatts of renewable energy, out of which 60 was, off-site utility scale, and then 40 gigawatts was specifically for solar rooftop to power through solar rooftops. Now, while we have been able or largely been able to achieve our target for utility scale, solar rooftop in 2022, if we look at the numbers, that is where we are lagging by a very significant amount. So out of the 40, we've, the deficit is almost 25 gigawatts of solar rooftop. So that's an area where we've not been able to leverage the opportunity, and the opportunity is there. The sizes and Richa spoke about the massive, millions of square feet. And we'll again have that kind of presence given Amazon. And I think all the companies represented here today have massive structures, massive rooftops, roof areas available, which have the potential to really adopt and move to. So I think the demand signals are there. The demand adoption from industry is there. The regulatory environment today. And there are, some very, understandable issues, perhaps around grid stability. What will it do to the stability of our power sector overall? But I think that those are questions that we need to pose. We need to look for answers, and those answers, these are solvable, and they have to be solvable issues if we want to get to where we, what we have positioned for ourselves. And given the abundance of this natural resource that we have in our country, solar energy, it is an area. It is just not. It cannot be an option not to leverage it to its full potential. So that is one area. And I think over there, what I'll also highlight is that this then needs partnerships. The way, and I would say not just on addressing the issue of renewable energy, but overall, if you look at decarbonization, it is a beast that we need to come together as industry, as multiple prongs in the overall value chains, whether we are talking about logistics and warehousing is one such issue. Yogesh talked about packaging, he talked about transportation, and these are all extremely relevant issues also for us, for anyone in the logistics sector. And all of these issues, we need to build out partnerships. We need to build out, so it has to be, so if it's warehousing, it has to be developers, it has to be users and operators, it has to be government. And again, congratulate the CII Institute of Logistics, because platforms like these really allow us to come together and think through about the challenges and the solutions that are possible. So I will really emphasize the need for partnerships. I will also bring in two other elements on renewable energy again. So we've got warehousing across the spectrum. I think most of us here today on the panel represent perhaps the larger end of warehousing, but I would, I'll emphasize that we continue to be a country, we continue to be an economy built and reliant on MSMEs. And we've got some great, policy interventions happening to open up the sector. The green energy open access rules that came out earlier this year really allow participation of MSMEs to be able to access renewable energy. What is needed, however, is uniform. So there is intent and there is policy guidance from the government of India at the central level. I think it's important that implementation, which needs to happen at the state level, also happens with the right intent and happens by bringing in some sort of uniformity. Because having these challenges, if I look at the NCR, we are dealing with the governments of Delhi and UP and Haryana and Rajasthan to some extent. So there needs to be some consensus, some sort of convergence in some of these regulations. And then at the very large end, so I spoke about the MSMEs, and then there is also this increasing trend of having, these industrial parks of warehouses where you've got multiple industrial warehouses where we are just one of, say, 10 other tenants or users there. There needs to be an ecosystem that really incentivizes as well as demands really action from each one of us occupying those industrial areas to really take action and take ownership at an individual user level. So that's really the whole gamut of renewable energy. I think that's that's a huge opportunity. There are some challenges, but not insurmountable challenges, and we definitely need to find a way to solve for it. Before I conclude, there are just two additional points, and I'll keep it brief. But really, we spoke about climate change, and we spoke about these issues that really, we will be asked, or we need to transition to some of these cleaner and some of these more sustainable practices. I would say the impact can be felt very, very visibly and explicitly even today. I'm in Delhi in the NCR region, and every year we start grappling with issues of air quality come October. And one of the challenges, one of the issues that we are grappling with is how do we, in warehouses, there are often disruptions in grid power supply, and then we are forced to rely on diesel generators, which we all know are ones that contribute to air quality issues. However, given that there is, what I'm saying is we need to have an alternative, and we need to have focused, focus on how do we solve for this challenge. We stop using it, and that becomes necessary really for our own survival when we are living, when we are in NCR in this period. But really, how do we solve for it as an industry? How do we solve for it as a nation, really? And again, there are options that are available. Again, if we talk of solar energy, solar plus battery storage, perhaps can be an option that at least, if not completely eliminates, reduces. However, there again, we need to come together as a partnership, because currently the cost for that may not be viable, but there can be interim solutions as we get to a stage when battery becomes a viable option. Also, I would say alternative fuels, if it's going to be hydrogen. We need to start having very serious conversations where hydrogen policies aimed only at green hydrogen production may not suffice. It also has to look at what role it can play in some of these more diffuse applications and users. And again, I think industry, the role that we need to play is as the demand and creating those demand signals, and work with government to make sure that we're able to bridge the gap in terms of whatever is required there. And last point, we need to look at the design of warehousing and what is the role that sustainable materials need to play. There needs to be more research, there needs to be standardization, there needs to be some sort of specific, there's again, there need to be collaborations that define, the taxonomies around it, the specifications and standardization around it. But that is another important area where we need to start building in some sort of, our own national level policies, national level guidance on what could be, so that we can also reduce the embodied carbon for some of these built, the infrastructure, and especially as it gets built. So I will stop here, and thanks again to this platform for the opportunity to lay out my views. Thank you. Over to
Yeah, thank you, Shubhra. Really appreciate for giving a very different perspective on this whole topic. Appreciate it. So we now move to the last panelist, Mr. Umesh. I take this opportunity to welcome him to this panel. Amidst all his busy schedule, I think he has made time to share his perspective on this topic being building warehouse competencies for 2022 and beyond. So over to you, Umesh. I will request you to introduce yourself briefly and then share your perspective.
Sure. Thank you so much. Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And sorry, I got a little late for joining this. So my name is Umesh. Like Mr. Mukundan said, I head logistics for one of the largest logistics for Coke in India. And I also lead a chamber of supply chain leaders for North of India, where we have 30 plus members of the user industry, where we try to do best practice sharing across the supply chain industry. So coming back to the topic of sustainability and automation, let me start with sustainability, because I really don't know if I start with automation, where will I end, and will I end or not, because there is so much to share. So sustainability, I think Shubhra covered a lot of areas, but I think a couple of areas I'll try and see if I not repeat for the sake of the audience to remain interested. Couple of areas where we can, yes, go for solar rooftops. We have tried solar rooftops, and we have also tried on the lease model. We have also tried on the TCO or the Bolt model, instead of directly getting into CAPEX, where it starts making more sense. But the problem there is, beyond a certain limit, the government does not allow, because the government also parallelly keeps on investing into the grid. So how do you exactly do that? So the next best alternative only is your PPAs, your power purchase agreements, or right now the new options where we are getting into group captive. So those are the kind of options which we can explore. Alternate fuels, Shubhra, yes, we tried biodiesel. It worked great for us, for AP, for Hyderabad, for Vijayawada. About 400 to 500 trucks we moved on biodiesel. Diesel generators for about 3-4 large plants we moved on biodiesel. But then now biodiesel is almost equal to diesel. So, yes, it's still greener a fuel, but it starts getting a little difficult to source, etc., when the cost exactly matches from a sourcing and the production standpoint. So that is a problem which we have. Electric vehicles was a very, very good boost, which we thought we got before 2019, before COVID hit the automobile industry. By now, we should have had already EVs in good scale for at least secondary transportation, if not primary, which has not happened yet. So we are trying in our own way on how do we exactly add a battery to a trailer. So we have caught hold of innovation pipeline outcome with a vendor, where we are doing about trailers in east of India, where we will add a 2-ton battery, and the trailer will take care of 200 kilometers of run. with one charge, and that becomes a lot greener. So those are the kind of interventions we are doing. By the way, it is official, which we have announced, that we are 50% plus. I just can't share what the number is, but exactly 50% plus greener and renewable energy as a company. We still have a very bold target going forward where we are working towards, but as of now, we are already crossed 50% plus last year, and the number is great beyond that, and it will get published soon, probably by Jan, what the real number is. So that's on sustainability. Coming to our favorite topic of automation. So post GST, I think all this started where there was a business case of consolidating warehouses and bringing it some science to it. That is exactly where we started consolidating. And Mr. Vikram, I joined when you were talking about ASRSs. So for us, ASRS means a little different because it's a very high scale operation we do. We do not exactly target only density. We also do in-feed automation where from the bottling lines till the warehouse, it should be manless. From the warehouse till the loading of the truck should be manless, which we call outfeed. And in between, there is also an order processing step for us, which we call mixed pallet making. Should also be, if not manless, at least semi-automated, where we have reached. So we today have about 3 such ASRSs in the country. One of them is a very heavy 450 plus pallets per hour speed in Gujarat. We are replicating about 3 more as we speak. There is a team negotiating, and by the end of next year, we should have 6 of them in the system, which should do a good volume for us, more than 1/3 of our volume in the country. So automation, yes, that's exactly what our perspective is. We do not try to apply technology in our system. Our approach is a little different. We try and be aware of the technology and we apply it to a problem. So we don't like to do IoT. We like to solve a yard management problem using sensors of IoT. And somewhere we are also adding RPA and bots to that. So broadly, how the trend is going is you go digital, you go paperless. We have digital signatures. We try to do as much as paperless as possible in the whole system. We try to do warehousing where it is more process driven, automated rather than people driven. A conventional warehouse this size, which we did, would need about 350 people to run it. But we run it today with 30 or 40 people overall. So that's the kind of advantage we try and perceive rather than just doing ASRS for the heck of it. So that's broadly what my perspective on automation, what we have done at least at Coke is. Now, how do you exactly do it? People ask me that, okay, you have a loading solution, which with the press of a button loads 1,000 cases in 3 minutes. We have 8 of those in our sites because it's a scale business. So people say that this might cost you a bomb. It actually does not. Because if you look at an end-to-end business case of reduced damages, improved turnaround times, improved capacity, which you can do per dock per hour, I think it pays back less than 2 years, about 1.5 years. And if people are on a manual operation where they do not load palletize onto the truck, maybe less than a year. So that's how automation is. There is a lot of localization happening in India. The ASRSs we are ordering are also mostly local. The current 3 ASRSs are 65% local, only 30-35% we import. So it's important for someone to look at business case a little holistically, even beyond logistics cost lines or supply chain cost lines, maybe across sales for service, etc. There is everything has a cost, right? If you can sell more 100 trucks and load more 100 trucks of that warehouse, that gives you more service, more reach, and more opportunity, obviously. So I think those are the kind of aspects which we consider while doing a business payback. We are so far largely automated in the country. We use IoT, like I said, in the yard. We also use kind of RPA for shipping automation. We use RPA for order taking of modern trade, be it Reliance, DMart, and many more. And all that kind of technology, which makes life simple, which also gives you a good payback. And we try to make sure that it is a little holistic as a payback. It simplifies life also, which is a big benefit which we want to get. So broadly, that is it on sustainability automation. I think we are already on time. It's 5. Back to you, Mr. Mukundan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Umesh, for being considerate about that. Great insights. I kind of, whenever I think about Coke or Coca-Cola, I recall I used to work with Hewlett Packard, and the numbers that we were talking at that time for printers were like 100,000 a month and all of that. But then one of the consultants came in and said, you need to benchmark yourself against large volume companies. So we were all blinking, and then we were thinking that we were large volume. So we said, who are we to benchmark with? And then he said McDonald's, Coca-Cola, blah, 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 a few other names. Because he opened our eyes and said, what you guys are talking about monthly volume, they do in an hour or they do in a day. So I really salute all of the insights that you have provided in terms of how Coca-Cola Coke does some of the things, in particularly in automation and in sustainability. Thank you very much. So,
Thank you so much.
I think we have about 10 minutes of time left. And I would just quickly go around and go from the bottom now. Ask you one question, which you can share very briefly your perspective. What is the call to action? All of us understand impact of IT, impact of automation, the effect of sustainability, why we should do it, why we should not do it, all of that. But if it all has to roll down into one call to action, I know the audience will be a mixed bag of people. They may be from SMEs, they may be from large companies, they may be from service providers, there may be from academic background, any of that. So from each of you, I would like to listen to one call to action that pops up in your mind when this topic is talked about. So first, let's start with Umesh.
Yeah. So I think one big thing at the cusp at which India is right now, my call to action would be embrace startups. Don't run away from them.
Okay.
Hear what ideas they have to offer. And you don't always need an IBM or an Accenture, nothing against them, but you always don't need a experienced company of 100 years or 50 years to implement a solution. There are good new technologies available and startups available, and you can try both in sustainability and in automation and logistics and supply chain overall as well. We have a mechanism called a hackathon by which we offer our problems to startups, and we are amazed at what they have to share with us. At least they are very promising in terms of what they can do and solve a problem with a very, very different approach. Helps you change mindset. And we use them and we give them an order there and then in that call. And that's a policy we have. We do it every July, every year. And it's working great for us. So I think startups is something to watch out for. And there is definitely a process which you need around it so that you can pilot, POC, and make them successful. Thank you.
Superb. Over to you, Shubhra. One call to action.
I would say I'll actually emphasize one point I made when I was speaking, which is on partnerships. I think it's important. I think and especially when I talk of sustainability, a lot of these issues are not issues that can be solved in silos. Some of the solutions that we are talking about, even, so if I'm talking of 2030 or 2040, some of the solutions may not exist today, but what Umesh said, whether that is with research institutes, whether that, so across the board, I think it is important to create partnerships focused on addressing the specific issues that we are trying to solve, whether that is on warehousing, whether that is on transportation, freight decarbonization, for example, which we do not have a solve for currently, whether it's on packaging, which again, there are specific gaps in terms of available solutions. So it would be about looking at it in a more collaborative manner.
Thank you. Yogesh, your perspective.
Yeah, so quite agree with the co-panelists, very strongly agree, I should say. And it's not just about the increased productivity, accuracy, and the safety it gets, but the human element of the increased morale it drives is really important. That's one. And second is that if our customers are not happy with how you served them yesterday, and you are wanting to be in business tomorrow, I think you need to do something different. And here is what it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Dr. Richa, what is the one call to action?
Yeah, I think growth and sustainability has to go hand in hand. You cannot plan your growth path without factoring in important aspects on sustainability, because that is also what your customer is demanding. So that is one thing which clearly is the ask here. And along with that, I also agree with the fact that Umesh suggested that, nurture the ecosystem around you with startups and all. So we do, in Mahindra Logistics, we have a dedicated program called Catapult, in which recently we have signed MOU with around 8 startups for its smart automation program. And this is all going to enhance the operational efficiencies through real-time monitoring. So this is also equally important, because the struggle that we may have, someone very younger in their growth journeys may have a solution for that. So it's always good to understand and learn in this process. So these are the just 2 call to actions that I would like to suggest here.
Okay, great. Sanjay.
So my takeaway here is, have a bottoms up approach, because we have all talked top down what our companies are thinking about, how we think about the strategy, and how we think about the go to zero. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So bottoms up approach is all about involving the people down the line, because they're the ones who are on the shop floors, who are facing our customers, who are facing the operations, and they can come up with the right solutions. So for example, in our organization, every year, we involve our people bottom line to give up the ideas, for example, on sustainability. On sustainability topics, we have given us 14, 15 pledges coming from top, and then everybody can sign to. Okay, I'll walk the distance to my corner store. I'll not take my car out. I'll carry a cloth bag along. I'll keep my mobile phone for at least 3 years before I want to replace. I'll not indulge into fast fashion. Now, what these type of commitments, they bring it from their personal life, they happen automatically in my public life. So I need not spend money on automation. I find people have got a habit of putting the switches off automatically the time they move out. So involving the people bottoms up into sustainability and automation distillation is very, very important, because they will come with such a small low cost ideas, and we have to just encourage and motivate them, energize them on this topic, because energizing them will give us an edge into this competitive market.
Perfect. Good. Okay, over to you, Vikram. Your perspective on call to action.
So I think clearly the need to build skill within the industry, at a shop floor level, to be able to embrace and imbibe all of this technology, automation, and sustainability that we want to launch. While we want to do these 3, the intent is either commercial or mandatorily enforced upon us. But are we building at the grassroots a workforce that is capable of embracing this? Now, while there is, some steps being taken by CII, Logistics Skill Council, etc., and a number of other folks as well, but is it being done fast enough? Is it being done, spread across the entire ecosystem? My personal answer is no, and I think that's really the need of the hour.
Great. Okay. Great. So I think I first, before we go to the questions from the audience, I really want to thank each one of the panelists.
I'll just, sir, Mukundan sir, I'll just add to what Mr. Vikram said, and it's a very big, very big pain area, because see, all these things now, today's date, we are dependent upon mobile workforces. And what I find is that whenever I get a new set of people in my organization, I have to train them from scratch. And 6 months they get trained, then they get moved out. And they move out to some competitor or somewhere here and there. I don't have a trained set of people. I have to train them all over again. So I need this type of, because the system I had seen way back in Japan in 30 years back, a person would take out 30 credit cards, type of cards from his hand. Sir, I'm certified for operating the crane, for pulling it up. I'm certified electrician. I'm certified this, that. So this is where CII can play an important role in certifying the people on skilling. For example, in my organization, I train people, and I know very well that this guy is not going to stay with me for more than 6 months, but I still give him a certificate. This guy is trained, that tomorrow he comes back to my ecosystem, I can take it. He was trained by me. So this type of standard skilling system should be available. It should not be left to the organization to train him. I can train him from some very specific things, but it should not be a raw person which should come to me as a talent. He should be a properly certified person. That's what is a wish list from my side.
Oh, really? Very, very, very well said. I think that's a very, very need of the hour as well. So I just wanted to thank the panelists individually from bottom of my heart. Really, it has been a wonderful session. As I said in the beginning, my job became much easier with such an expert panel around. I think we do have a flurry of questions from the participants. Usually the backend people never get exposed. So I would like to request CII Kirtana, who has done a phenomenal job of organizing many of these things, to read out one or two questions to the panelists or to me so that we can quickly answer them. And then we can wrap it up. Kirtana?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you read out?
So question from audience. First question is, what are the current state of the art, recent developments and gaps in the warehousing industries and technologies can be under sustainable warehousing?
Okay. Can I ask Vikram to quickly elaborate on that?
So I think, that really covers the entire gamut of the session that we had today. And, I think all of us did kind of contribute to each of those points asked in the question. But I think, again, just to, one takeaway, do we have enough footprint that is growing as fast as we would like in the warehousing space to accommodate, automation, technology as we want to deploy it, and sustainability? I think the answer is no. So there's clearly a need to do a lot more development of that footprint.
Okay. Umesh, can you add to that?
Sure. So I think, see, in India, there will always be a need for having solutions on scale. So right now, what is trending more is whatever was a technology in the developing nation, how do we localize it in India and make it more economical? That's broadly where the trend is going. Bosch manufactures most of the sensors in India now, rather than outside India. And all that is what a new trend is, which people will suddenly start making solutions become more payback friendly. They'll give you a better return than they were earlier when you were importing them from a Germany or a Poland or somewhere else. So broadly, I think ASRS, the next trend is robotics. I've heard a very large manufacturing facility in Noida by one of our once upon a time startups in 2015, 2016, who are growing big and investing a lot of money on making cobots and robots in India. So that will help you make mixed pallets, that will help you solve the problem of the growing modern trade and the growing proliferation of many SKUs getting into the Indian share of throat. So I think that's broadly what the current trend is. Going paperless, of course, is something which was more got interesting after COVID, where people are now talking of a lot of documentation which happens touchlessly, manlessly, and that could be another trend to follow. Technology to make that happen, broadly RPA.
Okay. One commitment I take to the participants is that any question that is asked for will be answered. I will take the responsibility to revert back to them after consulting the panelists. So in the interest of time, I would ask Kirtana to read out one more question. And then with that, we will do a concluding remark.
Sure, sir. So second question is, yes, sir. Second question is, which type of technologies can be included for gaining sustainability in warehousing?
Okay. Dr. Richa, can you answer that?
So as I said, this when we have so operational efficiency is the biggest challenge that most of the high density or high demand side of like if we have to handle multiple lakhs of packages every day, so what is it that is required in terms of operational efficiency? So be it a kind of sorting mechanism or any kind of facilitation, conveyors and all of that. So I think technology which aims in better operational efficiencies, I think those are the things that will be the need of the hour here. And I'll request other panelists to add on if I've missed anything.
Yeah, Sanjay, your perspective.
So if you're specifically asking about sustainability, I told a very simple concept of zero impact factory or a zero impact warehouse. We can bring it on a national level also. So in my organization, there's a concept called zero impact factory, which has got 11 parameters. And each of these parameters sees how on the entire life cycle of the process, we are impacting the environment around us, how we are impacting the acidification potential, ozonification potential, and a lot of that standard potentials there in the life cycle thinking. So how we, whatever the work, how we are using the energy, what type of energy, what type of water we are using, what type of waste we are doing, what type of waste we are trying to send it out, how we are managing the soil around us, how we are doing the rainwater harvesting, are we having the green buildings, how green is the building in the entire life cycle, are the building materials used, are the green materials, are there recyclable materials? There can be a whole gamut of some 11 things in this whole process. We need to make one index, one number. So for example, we call it billion impact points in our parlance. Okay, so today's date, I have got 7,000 billion impact points. My target is that I want to reduce it to 4,000 by 2025. So we have to convert this entire spectrum into one number for the warehousing on all these impacts of, I mean, whatever the externalities can be there to the atmosphere around us, whether it's energy, whether it's waste, whether it's water, or it's air, anything. And that is how we can make one big goal towards everything. And that's what can be a good standardization around that. Okay, what is the impact point of this warehouse? We have got one number.
Super. Okay, we are bang on time. Really appreciate once again the panelists. I think it has been a very, very useful session, at least from my perspective, a lot of new learnings, a lot of different perspectives. So I'm sure that participants would be listening to all of you. So once again, I congratulate you for taking the time. And I'll now hand it over to Bhanumati to do the closing remarks.
Thank you so much. It's really my pleasure and privilege to thank every one of you. Right from morning, we have been having a very wonderful thought-provoking session. And we are also getting feedback from the audience that every session is quite interesting and thought-provoking. So my sincere thanks to every one of you here. And I think from CII Institute of Logistics, this is the last online event. Henceforth, it will be physical. And then I look for a great opportunity to meet every one of you in the location in the coming time. And happy to announce that the Scale Awards is scheduled on 9th of December in Mumbai. And then I take this opportunity to invite, and I will also be in touch with you and then share the invite. Please join the physical event. It's happening in Mumbai, the Lalit, and then a lot of participation from companies. So it will be a really meaningful day. Thanks to the sponsors, TVS Supply Chain Solutions and Bumer for supporting, but for them, this would not have happened. Thanks to Mr. Manish Saigal, Alvas and Marshall for supporting us in the strategies, planning the event, all that. So again, thanks to every one of you, all the session chair, panelists, presentation. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Dr. Bhanumati.
Thank you.
Thank you.